You know what time it is. This is another weekly update with the Derek Smith Spiel. This week, May 13th through 19th. And let's start in the NFL for this week. A big topic, obviously, has been the draft. Let's talk about non-first round draft picks that could make an impact this year. One is Tyler Shaw. With Derek Carr retiring, this rookie could step up and lead the offense. The Saints quarterback room is a huge question mark in their team, but there will be a lot of competition, and it will bring the most out of those athletes. Look for Tyler Shaw to really step up and embrace the starting role and the challenge in front of him. At the Broncos, R.J. Harvey. The Broncos were in desperate need for a running back, and R.J.'s fresh legs could come in handy for the offense. The Broncos, they do have decent running backs, but the depth at the position is the biggest issue, especially with injury. It's the value for the running back is finally back up to par, but the value for young running backs in specific has risen just because of their fresh legs, and they haven't been banged up as much as a veteran running back yet. So huge value in rookie running backs. Watch out for R.J. Harvey. Jonah Sevenia, offensive lineman. He's at the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were desperate for an offensive lineman. Specifically help really anywhere but at the guard position where Jonah is. Jonah has the versatility to help them anywhere, but again, it will be smartest to put him at guard where he's most comfortable. But no matter what, he will have a place on the Dolphins line as the Dolphins look to bounce back and keep everyone healthy this season and be competitive in the AFC East. Mason Taylor, tight end for the Jets. The Jets had virtually no tight end before drafting Taylor. Taylor has great blocking and catching skills and could be a threat in the red zone. Any offense that has a tight end, it's just a lethal threat because defenses are already worried about the wide receivers guarding the perimeter, and then the linebackers are focused on the running back. Then when you have a tight end, even if he's just a check down option, just to have that option there, specifically in the red zone, is huge. Go over to Houston, the Texans, and Jaden Higgins. The Texans wide receiver room disintegrated like no other. Diggs left for the Patriots, and Tank Dell's return is still in question. Jaden Higgins will have a great opportunity to slide right into the starting wide receiver spot behind or with Christian Kirk. At the Browns, we are not talking about Shadur Sanders. We are talking about Carson Schwarzenegger. The Browns are still suffering from injuries at the linebacker position, and Carson showed elite skills in his college campaign last year, collecting 115 tackles. Now another one on the defensive side. This one for the Chiefs kind of came by surprise because when you think of the Chiefs, you don't think of anywhere where they need help. Omar Norman Lott can provide help and support lining up on the opposite side of Chris Jones. A lot of teams, with great reason, double cover Chris Jones. He's a freak athlete and a problem against the run game and disrupting the pass game. He just creates pressure no matter what play it is. Having someone lined up on the opposite side of him who can also create pressure, it makes it more difficult to double cover him because then you're leaving someone else open or one-on-one coverage or blocking. And even though Omar is a defensive tackle, he got 9.5 sacks last year in college. So Omar can provide pressure on the opposite side of Chris Jones. Watch out for the interior defense of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now off the draft and right into next year, the season opener has been announced. It will be the Eagles against the Cowboys. The only reason I like this matchup is because of the history of the rivalry. These two teams hate each other. It's one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports, probably only behind the Yankees and Red Sox. So that's what I love about it. what I hate about it is it doesn't seem like a good matchup at all. The Eagles are coming off a Super Bowl win and frankly are still the team to beat. It's very hard to go back to back. If there's any team that can do it, it's the Eagles. The only place they might have dipped a little bit is on defense, but they still made a point to improve or try and maintain their linebackers and their defensive backs. They still look phenomenal and like a serious threat. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, Dak and CeeDee Lamb, they will be healthy. And they added George Pickens, but other than that, they have not done very much to improve. And their run game is still a huge question mark, as well as their defense. So it's exciting because of the rivalry, and division games tend to be closer. But I'm still taking the Eagles, no doubt, in this matchup. YouTube will stream the Week 1 game in Brazil for free. This is the first game in history to be streamed live and in entirety for free legally on YouTube and YouTube TV. Last year, 350 million hours of football were watched on YouTube. And this is all NFL content, so it can be anything that the NFL channel posted, whether it was a football life, the actual games, but still 350 million hours. The NFL, they've figured something out in streaming. It truly looks like the end of cable, which isn't really a sports topic, but when you look at it, at least the only reason my parents kept cable, it was to watch sporting events. Now, baseball, that's still on, we've got DirecTV, so that's still on Direct, but everything else, I don't know about hockey, football, at least, that's on streaming devices. The NFL is now on YouTube, YouTube TV, Peacock, Amazon, Netflix, and still on cable, but I mean, the NBA's on Netflix too. It looks like in a few years, cable will be gone, and sports organizations like the NFL, the NBA, even the MLB's on Peacock too, they have a huge role in this shift to streaming devices. Brock Purdy, he is agreeing to a 5-year, $265 million deal with $181 million guaranteed to continue his career with the 49ers. Prior to this deal, Purdy made $2.6 million over his first 3 NFL seasons, since he was the last pick of the draft in 2022. That made him the 76th highest paid quarterback in that time frame. Brock Purdy, he gets a lot of hate, a lot of crap, and I don't really know why. Maybe most of it is because he wears his hat backwards. They say he's like a frat boy and not a leader of the team. But I'm a huge fan of this contract. Whether you think he's unprofessional, childish, overrated, whatever you think of Brock Purdy, the bottom line is when Purdy is the starting quarterback for the 49ers, they are 27-15 and have been to 2 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl. And that is not a coincidence. Since Week 14 of the 2022 season, that's when Brock Purdy took the starting quarterback position. Purdy ranks 7th in passing touchdowns, 4th in passing yards with 9,242, 4th in quarterback rating with 70.6, and 1st in yards per attempt with 9. When you look at the major stats, Purdy is near the top of the NFL in all of them since he came in as a starter as Mr. Irrelevant. I don't care if he wears his hat backwards or sideways, he helps the 49ers win. Last year was just a disaster for San Francisco. It was the perfect storm. Do not expect that 2 years in a row. This contract was huge for San Francisco to get done, and huge for Brock Purdy to start making some real NFL cash. Into the MLB, it was not a good week for managers. The Rockies fired their head coach, Bud Black, after their terrible start to the season. The team was 7-33, and they decided to move on and get a fresh start after the 21-0 loss to the Padres. However, the Rockies were able to win the last game that Bud was permitted to coach, so at least Coach Bud Black got to leave on a win. With that being said, the 7-33 start ranks them as the second worst 40-game start in MLB history. That's only behind the 1988 Orioles that were 6-34. Bud coached the Rockies for 9 years and had a career record of 544 and 690, making him the winningest coach in franchise history. It actually looked as though the Rockies were going to stick with Black and look not for wins, but for improvement after a terrible year last year. Plans changed after the historically bad start and the 21-0 loss. The Rockies are now finding a new manager. But they're not the only team looking for a new manager, or I should say who fired their manager. The Orioles also fired Brandon Hyde. Brandon Hyde coached the Orioles through a rebuild and led them to the playoffs for the past 2 years. In 2023, the Orioles had a 100-win season. Brandon brought success to the Orioles. He coached them through a rebuild and into the playoffs. But this year, the Orioles got off to a horrible start, a very disappointing start. No one expected them to go 15-29, especially with a roster like they have with promising young talent. They are also currently 10 games behind the Yankees, who are leading the division, which through 40 games, when you look at the grand scheme of things, still 120 left to go. 10 games behind isn't awful. You never want to be at double-digit games behind, but there's a ton of season left. GM Mike Elias took the blame for the disappointing start to the season and said it was his job to keep things fresh with the team and keep them evolving. However, him taking the blame did not get Brandon Hyde off the hot seat, obviously. Prior to this season, Hyde was questioning his future with the team after getting swept in the playoffs twice. The cold start to this year was the nail in his coffin as the Orioles head coach. The players did not respond well to this departure. They were very disappointed. They liked playing for Brandon Hyde. They said he was a great person and that he did the best with the circumstances he was given this year, which is important to look into. When you look at the Orioles this year, they're plagued with injury, but also they had a very disappointing offseason. They lost their ace, and they did absolutely nothing to find a new pitcher. Corbin Burns was out. He was signed to another team, and there seemed to be no urgency to find more starting pitchers, more relief pitchers, any pitching to increase their depth after a bona fide superstar in the MLB left their team. And I do believe Hyde tried his best. Obviously, any manager would try their best. It's disappointing. One with so much season left. It's just a cold start. Every team goes through a cold stretch in a 162-game season. It's disappointing with that start, with his history, and helping the team succeed. And when you look at how the players enjoyed playing for him, it will be interesting to see if the team bounces back or gets worse. Now third base coach Tony Manzolini, who had a ton of coaching experience through the minor leagues. He was a manager in the minor leagues. He will be the interim manager for the Orioles until they either find another manager or just decide to keep it with him. But all these bad starts, gotta talk about the Detroit Tigers. My favorite team, the gritty Tigers, representing the 3-1-3. As of Tuesday morning, they were first in the American League with a record of 27-15, and they were also leading the MLB in point differential with a plus 84. That record's only gotten better after they swept the Red Sox. I'm not a Yankees fan, but I live in New York, and I'm not a huge Red Sox fan. So it's always nice to see the Red Sox get swept, especially after just the drama that Rafael Devers is starting, refusing to play first base for the team. I liked seeing that attitude get swept. With that being said, Jason Foley has had a season-ending shoulder injury. Foley led the Tigers with 28 saves last season, and he had a 3.15 ERA through 69 appearances. He started this year at AAA, but it was planned that he would be a part of the MLB team, and everyone in the association is disappointed that his season on such a promising year is over before it even started. Another ending, this one not to a season, but to a career. Matt Carpenter has officially retired from baseball. Matt was a three-time All-Star who over his career batted .259 with 179 home runs. He spent 11 of his 14 major league seasons with the Cardinals and will forever be a St. Louis Cardinals legend. But speaking of legacy, Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson have been waived off the MLB's permanently ineligible list. Both players can now be voted into the Hall of Fame. This is not a shock given that both players were banned for gambling, and the MLB rule is once a player passes away, their ban is up. The logic behind this rule, according to MLB Commissioner Robert Manfred, is a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. That is a direct quote from Robert Manfred, just to make that clear. But on that quote, that's really a hard one. That's a hard one to get behind. A person no longer with us cannot represent the threat of the integrity of the game. To me, that's assuming once a person dies, their legacy, how people viewed them, and what they stood for dies with them. And I could not disagree with that more. Muhammad Ali, he passed away. The best boxer in history, best fighting personality in history. He passed away, but his legacy lives on. The way he stood up for what he believed in, his Muslim religion, the way he carried himself, the way he fought, his legacy lives on. Babe Ruth, everyone wants to pick their shot like Babe Ruth. O.J. Simpson, everyone knows he was a murderer, but a great football player. On the accounts of Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, the first thing people think of when they think of Pete Rose, they think of the Hit King. At least me. When I think of Pete Rose, I think of the best average hitter, contact hitter in baseball history. When it came to just getting on base, putting the ball in play, Pete Rose was the best hitter in history. He claimed to be the winningest baseball player in history. I'd believe that. I'd even get behind that statement. It's very similar to Michael Jordan. To me, this would be the equivalent of if Michael Jordan, the best player in basketball history, was caught gambling on NBA games that he was in. Everyone knows that Michael Jordan had a gambling addiction. And everyone knows that Pete Rose has had a gambling addiction. Should that gambling addiction be punished if there is no proof that what they were gambling on and how they gambled changed the outcome of a game? Then the answer is no. Michael Jordan gambled. There's no proof that what he gambled on changed the results of any of the games he was associated with. That's why Michael Jordan doesn't get any crap for his gambling addiction. because he was the best and he won. Pete Rose was the best and he won. But it was figured out he bet on MLB games. And again, he bet on his team to win. It's like same as Michael Jordan, just there was no record of Michael Jordan betting on his team to win. But Michael Jordan always bet on himself. The Pete Rose ruling is frustrating beyond relief, and legacy does live on. To me, the fact that Barry Bonds is eligible for making it to the Hall of Fame when his legacy is being the biggest juicer in MLB history, it's criminal. It's criminal for the MLB to allow. When someone was caught cheating and they are allowed into the Hall of Fame, meanwhile, Pete Rose, there's no proof that he cheated and he's not allowed in. It makes no sense. No sense at all. Pete Rose should have been inducted to the Hall of Fame years ago. I'm glad he can finally be inducted. But now that he's gone, it isn't the same. It seems like more of an insult. On the other hand, Shoeless Joe Jackson, there is proof that his team, and he was a part of it through the 1919 World Series. That's different. Shoeless Joe Jackson, I get if you don't allow him into the Hall of Fame. He literally changed MLB history and threw a game. I don't think he should be allowed in. There's proof that he threw a game. There's no proof Pete Rose did. And when you look at how Pete Rose won, it doesn't make sense that Pete Rose ever threw a game. The double standards, hypocrisy, whatever you want to call it, is infuriating. It's infuriating. But on a positive note, Pete Rose can finally be inducted to the Hall of Fame and be remembered for future generations, not as a controversial hit king, but as the hit king and the winningest player in baseball. Now in the UFC, at UFC Fight Night, Michael Morales defeated Gilbert Burns by TKO in round 1. Michael Morales is now 18-0 and is looking like a serious contender in the welterweight division. Former Bellator champ Patchy Mix is joining the UFC and will debut at UFC 316 on June 7th. Mix is 20-1 and a two-time defending Bellator champ. He was released from Bellator and has not fought since 2024, but will be back in the octagon to face Mario Batista, who is 15-2, and the 10th ranked bantamweight in the UFC. In the same fight card, the main event will be a title fight in the same bantamweight division where Sean O'Malley rematches Merab Dvalishvili. The future of the bantamweight title will be on display in UFC 316. That will be very exciting to see. It'll be exciting to see if Sugar Sean can make his comeback. He's still a superstar. He will forever be a superstar. Will he be able to get past the puzzle of Merab Dvalishvili? That'll be an interesting narrative. Then, will the newcomer, what will he look like going from Bellator to UFC, two respected MMA associations, but UFC being the best? What will that transition look like for him? He's facing the 10th ranked fighter in the UFC. Two very exciting fights in the bantamweight division. Like I said, the future of the division, all on display at UFC 316. Now let's talk about what's next for Bilal Muhammad after his loss. Most likely, it is going to be Kamaru Usman. That's word on the street is Kamaru Usman is next for him. And when you look into it, it makes sense. Whether Kamaru wins or loses against Joaquin Buckley, that's Kamaru's next fight, he will be backed up for a title shot. He will not be the first option when there is Makhachev and Rakhmonov already in line waiting for a title shot that they do deserve. However, if he beats Buckley, and then he beats Bilal, then you have to consider giving him another shot. Bilal was a UFC middleweight champion, a very respected one, or should have been respected. When I say respected, I mean you look at his record, his win streak. He wasn't popular. He should have gotten more respect. But the bottom line is when people step in the octagon against him and the lights come on, it's time to fight. He's a threat and they do respect the danger he can do. So let me just clarify on that. If he beats Buckley, who is a top contender and one of the best middleweight fighters in the division right now, then you have to consider giving him a title shot after he just beat a top contender. Then, even if Usman loses to Buckley, putting two fighters, Bilal and Usman, who have just come off losses and want to get back into contention, that'll still be a meaningful fight because both fighters looking to get back in the win column and maybe getting a shot to fight Makhachev or Rakhmonov or another top contender to put them first in line for a title fight. So no matter how it shakes off with Kamaru Usman against Joaquin Buckley, it makes sense that his next fight will be Bilal Muhammad. That can't be on Kamaru's mind. He's got to focus on this coming fight, embrace the fight he's in now, and then look forward to the future, which he will do. He's professional. But that's all I've got. That's a wrap for this week's update. I hope you enjoyed. That was May 13th through 19th. Catch you later. This episode was brought to you by yours truly, Derek Smith, with help from the voice memos and Spotify Podcasters app. For more content like this, you can continue listening to the Derek Smith Spiel on Spotify, or you can listen on my YouTube channel at Derek Smith Stock 13. There you'll find my podcast and sports betting videos on top of that. If you're a fan of my sports betting videos, you can also see highlights of those on my TikTok account. You can find that by searching at SmithStock5 again on TikTok. Enjoy collecting cards? If so, check out my Collects account at Derek Smith Stock to get deals on quality cards. For updates on everything I mentioned, follow my Instagram account. You can find that by searching Derek Smith Stock 13 on Instagram. Not interested in sports? Then go to YouTube and watch Dylan Smith Outdoors YouTube channel. Search Dylan Smith Outdoors, where there are plenty of outdoor content videos, including hunting, catching, trail cam and tree stand setup, cooking, and plenty of laughs in between. Need your lawn sprayed? Whether it's weeds or insects, Greenwood Ecologics has you covered. If you need help making your lawn greener than your neighbors, call Greenwood Ecologics at 585-739-1610. I repeat, 585-739-1610. Finally, thank you for listening to this production of the Derek Smith Spiel. Every view or listener is appreciated. I'll catch you later.